So, every year, I go home to Alaska for the summer. And what that entails is a 6, sometimes 8-hour flight to get from one part of the country to Anchorage. And I bring this up because watching this movie very much reminds me of one of those flights. It's a long, tedious, dull, shockingly painful experience that by the end of it, you are just screaming for the fucking thing to touch down so you can go home. Folks, I have never been this fucking bored in a movie in my life. But you know what? I love biopics. I love history. I love learning about history. And what I have learned from this movie is that Neil Armstrong was apparently an emotionless android who only knew about emotions from observing the humans and only had love for his daughter, who tragically passed away at a young age, and therefore had no love for anyone ever again, and nor any reactions to anything ever again. I love how this is the movie that they're trying to put out there for Ryan Gosling's Oscar bait. You know, this is his big Oscar grab. Yeah, sure, he deserves an Oscar if they have a category for actor who has no fucking emotions, no fucking reactions, and stares blankly at the camera at all motherfucking times. Holy shit. You're just screaming for him. Have a fucking emotion. React to something. They come in and tell him, Neil, we want you to lead the mission to the moon. Okay. Fuck! And don't give me any of this, well, the movie's about how the loss of his child drained him emotionally, or, you know, well, actually, he actually was like that in real life. I don't give a good goddamn. I don't care if that's how he really reacted in real life. It is boring to watch. It is unbelievably boring. Ryan Gosling has no fucking screen presence. None. And it's apparent when he tries to act, as he did in La La Land, and I give him a lot of credit for the singing and dancing and the attempt he made in that film, even though I didn't particularly like it. But here, there's no fucking attempt. It's a dead-eyed stare. Data on Star Trek had more facial expressions and emotional reactions to things than this guy. Not to mention, so that's problem number fucking one. And it's not just Ryan Gosling, it's just about every other character in the movie, though he is the worst. This just, you know, vacant, unemotional, detached, you know, presentation. And, you know, this whole movie is building up, you know, going to the moon, and they try to sell the landing on the moon as this big emotional catharsis. It's not, because as far as we can tell, he doesn't give a shit if he goes to the moon. He just seems to be doing it because there was nothing else for him to do. You never once get the impression that he even gives a shit. Go to the moon or drive to Utah. And no diss against Utah is just the first thing that came to mind. You know? So why then do we have this huge catharsis for a guy who doesn't give a flying fuck? Alright? So there's that problem. The second problem is that the film jumps like huge chunks at a time. So, okay, like I'm just going to recap here the first couple of moments of this film. Neil Armstrong is piloting a plane. It crashes or touches down, but it had some problems. His daughter is sick with cancer. He's caring for his daughter who's sick with cancer. His daughter is dead. He goes for an interview at NASA. He gets the job at NASA. His wife is pregnant. His wife has the other baby. And I am not cutting out important shit. That is exactly the sequence that happened. Boom, 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 boom. So combine that with the 1,000-yard stare, and what you have is a film with no characters that you can relate to. No characters that you fucking care about. And I don't know, I'm sure every time I say I don't know an actor, I go and look them up when I get home, and I've seen them in 1,000 things. I don't know this actor playing his wife. But I have seen fucking department store mannequins that had more chemistry than these two. Because both of them are doing the 1,000-yard dead-eyed stare throughout the entire fucking movie. There's a section of this movie fairly early on, so it's supposed to be like 7 years or something after we've met them, I forget, where he's sitting in the kitchen, she comes in, he goes, "Hey." She says, "Hi." And if the next line out of their mouth had been, "Who are you?" you would not have been fucking surprised. Okay? You have no connection to anyone in this movie. And I understand what they were going for. They were trying, the film seems to have this arc of him either coming to grips with or finally letting go of his daughter, who, sadly, I'm not trying to belittle that or the struggle that the real Neil Armstrong must have gone through, or that anybody must go through who loses a child. I'm not trying to belittle that. A dear friend of mine lost a child. So I've seen it. I understand it. I can't say I understand it firsthand. It's never happened to me. But I'm sorry. This guy loses his daughter tragically. Again, sorry, but fucking basically doesn't give a shit about his two other kids. And just sleepwalks through the next 10, 15 years or so. It's like you never cracked a smile once, not one thing did you feel like you had a connection to, or had, like I say, they tell him you're gonna fly the fucking mission to the moon. You've got no reaction to that? And again, I don't give a shit if that's how the real Neil Armstrong reacted or not. I'm saying from a film perspective, from watching a movie that needs to have a narrative and characters that you can relate to and that you are rooting for, it is a character who is dead and you don't care. So yeah, so they jump in time, quick, and boom, boom, boom. This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Until they get into space. When they're in space, they take for fucking ever to get to do anything. They show one of the early Apollo missions. All right. So it's Neil Armstrong and some other guy. We don't know who half these other characters are. We see them, but I don't think they're ever identified by name. A slight diversion, one of the guys he works with dies fairly early on, and he's supposed to be so tore up about it. And you're like, who the fuck was that guy? Have we seen him? Who are they talking about? Because they go in that boom, 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 boom. Anyway, so they're up in space. They're in one capsule, they connect with the other, and then something happens and they lose control, so they're spinning out of control, and everything he has to do to kind of get them back, on the ground safely. And they show every moment of it. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? You'd think so. And in the hands of, a better director like Ron Howard or Steven Spielberg, maybe it would be. But what we have here is an almost real-time recreation of this, all shot from inside the cockpit, So a small area about the size of, you know, the front seat of my car. Shaky cams, cameras zooming in on eyes, and you know, control panels with dials that we don't know what they are. There's dialogue which I think is supposed to be trying to explain what's happening, but it's all in that crackled radio, so you can't understand what they're doing. The camera's spinning around, jumping all over the place, and again, I get it, so don't give me the well actually nonsense. I get that it's supposed to be from the perspective of being in the capsule. But that's not exciting. It's not interesting. You need some external shots to give the audience some frame of reference as to what's going on. And it goes on forever. The space stuff, when they're in space, goes on forever. Landing on the moon, what made me think of, you know, comparing this movie to the flight back to Anchorage every summer, is that when they go to land on the moon, it literally felt like it did when we're coming in for a landing in Anchorage. At that point, I've been in the goddamn plane for so long, I'm just going, land, 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 land! I'm surprised they didn't take a half an hour to show them getting back to Earth. Oh my God. What a fucking mess. And you know what's so frustrating is that any one of the stories that they did here, any one of the chunks of his life, would have made a fascinating movie on its own. You know? Any one of them. But the film is, at the same time, in a rush and desperate to show you every detail, that it has no real focus on. You can't focus on any one incident, and the incidents it does take a long time, it does dedicate a lot of screen time to, are so horribly shot, and you know that you can't focus on it. You don't know what's going on. And couple that with the absolutely terrible acting, and you have, like I said, one of the most boring, soul-crushing things I have witnessed in quite some time. I can't necessarily say it is a terrible movie, because it is shot very well in most cases. There's a strong directorial eye, but I think that directorial eye is very unfocused. It seems to do a lot of things, and seems to, you know, try to do a lot of things. You know, the director loves juxtapositioning scenes. You know, and sometimes there's scenes that make sense, and sometimes there's scenes that don't make sense. You know? So it's like, why are you juxtapositioning scenes here? There's one early on where it's Neil Armstrong, I keep almost calling him Neil Simon, is like doing something, is like going through training at NASA, and it keeps cutting, it goes to that scene, and it cuts to a scene of his wife meeting the wife of one of the other guys, then back to him training. Then it's like, how are these two things connected? You know, but yeah, I'm having trouble deciding if this is a bad movie or just a fucking frustrating one. And right now, it's so frustrating, I'm leaning towards bad. You know, so yeah, I'm not a fan of First Man. Yeah. Final grade. Let's just wrap this puppy up. Final grade. I'm gonna be nice, though I don't know why. Every time I'm nice, it just bites me in the ass lately. So I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna say a D- for this, because there are germs of better movies in here. There's germs of good ideas in here, but they don't come out. Oh, and while I'm on this subject, I'm going to backtrack a few days to a few reviews. I cannot fucking wait for A Star is Born to get the hell out of theaters. Because I am so sick of going to a movie and in quiet moments, or not even quiet moments, but other moments, hearing the motherfucking country rock soundtrack coming through from the other fucking theater. It's like living above somebody who plays their radio at full blast. Or it's like trying to teach a class in your room when they've dumped the noisy ass study hall in your lap, and the person who's supposed to be watching the study hall doesn't give a crap, so they just make all the noise they want while you're trying to teach your class. But, you know, I'm not speaking from personal experience on that one. So yeah, if I needed another reason not to like A Star is Born, there it is. That's right, people who gave me 4 fucking thumbs down for my Star is Born review. There's another reason I hate it. Come get me. So yeah, 2 Oscar bait movies, and both of them suck. So yeah, there it is. D- for this piece of shit. In case you can't tell, I've had a bit of a rough week. So in a way, I'm kind of glad this movie was bad, because now I have a means to take my anger out on something that I don't hurt anybody. Unless Ryan Gosling's watching this and I can just see the tear gonna go. The fat guy in the car who talks to himself didn't like my acting. Anyway. Yeah. So yes, I did not care for this picture. But, you know what? We put it behind us, and we move on, and we make things better. So, thank you for allowing me to vent my frustrations. I hope you found it entertaining. I've discovered that the videos that people tend to enjoy the most are the ones where I'm kind of going nuts at a movie. So people might actually watch this one. Anyway, it's late. I'm exhausted. It's been a long week, and I still have work to do tomorrow. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.